This tutorial is meant for cohort data managers. I will show you how to upload your cohort's metadata to MOLGENIS Data Catalogue using the cohort dictionary and cohort mappings Excel templates, and how to upload them to your database on the Data Catalogue staging server. On the Data Catalogue staging server, everyone is able to see the database's catalog and catalog ontologies. The database catalog contains the variables of the common data models that you will be mapping towards, and the database catalog ontologies contains the lookup lists that you need to refer to in some columns of the templates. When you log in, you can also see and enter your own cohorts database. I will do that later on in this video. You need to fill out templates and upload them to add data to your database. Let's start by filling out the cohort dictionary template. This template consists of multiple sheets. In the sheet source tables, you define your tables. Here I have defined several tables for my test cohort. Each table should at least be given a name, and optionally you can add a label and a description. In the sheet's source variables, you define your cohort's variables. In the first column, you refer back to a table defined under source tables. In the second column, you define the variable name. These first two columns are mandatory, but it is advised to add more information to give more insight into your data. In the column label, you may define a variable label. You can give the data type of your variable under format, and for numeric data types, so for continuous or integer data types, you may also want to enter a unit. The available formats and units can be found back in the database catalog ontologies in the Data Catalog staging server under corresponding table names. If you need to add a format or unit there, please contact us at molgenis-support@umcg.nl. You can add a description of your variables, and you can give more insight into your data by adding some example values. Next to this, it is also possible to add a collection event to a variable. If you want to do so, these have to be defined in the sheet collection events. In the column vocabularies, you may define an ontology that is being used as categorical values for a variable, such as in this example on family disease on the mother's side, in which ICD-10 codes are used as options for this categorical variable. If you need to add a vocabulary to the catalog ontologies on the staging server, please contact us at molgenis-support@umcg.nl. In the sheet source variable values, you define values and labels of variables, of categorical variables. You refer back to tables and variables defined in source tables and source variables, and you give values and labels as the answering options for those variables. And you can also give an order, and you can tell whether there's whether this value indicates that the value is missing. The variable value is missing. In the sheet repeated source variables, you can define repeated measurements. For instance, child's height and weight were measured at different time points. The first definition of this repeated measure was done on the source variables, and all other repeats are defined here, and they refer back to BM0 for body mass 0, so the weight of the child, or they refer back to length 0, so the height of the child. Again, you may want to add a collection event here. So now we get to the sheet collection events. For longitudinal studies, it will give more insight into your dataset when you define collection events. That is, time points or periods at which sets of data were measured. In this test cohort, I have used collection events which have been linked to variables in the sheet's source variables and repeated source variables. It is possible to add a minimum and maximum age at which data must be collected for the collection events. These age min and age max need to be pre-listed in the database catalog ontologies under age categories. If you need to add an age category there, please contact us at molgenis-support@umcg.nl. Collection events can in turn be linked to subcohorts within your cohorts, such as mothers or infants. If you want to use subcohorts, you can define them under or in the sheet subcohorts. Now let's upload this filled out template to the staging catalog. I will need to log in to do this. And when I'm logged in, I'm able to see more databases. And this last database contains, I will use to upload the variables that we just filled out. Here you can see that these, the sheet names correspond to the tables that are in the database. So under Up Download in the ribbon, you can select a file that is on your computer and import it. And now you will be able to view your data on the tables. So for instance, we can see our source tables here. When you have harmonized your data variables, you can describe the harmonization procedure on the variable level using the cohort mappings Excel template. This template only consists of one sheet in which you define the mappings from your cohort variables to a networks variable. In the columns from table and from variable, you refer back to tables and variables defined in the cohort dictionary, source tables, and source variables sheets. In the columns to network, to table, and to variable, you define which networks variables you are mapping to. The variables of the networks can be found in the database catalog under all variables. Next to this, you can add whether a match is complete, partial, or not available. You can enter the syntax that you use to harmonize your cohorts data to the networks variable, and you can add a description. Well, let's also upload this filled out template to the data catalog staging server. I will need to log in again. And we can upload the mappings template at the same space that we use to upload the cohort dictionary. Oh, now this is done, and you can check your mappings, for instance, under source variables in the column mappings or under the variable mappings table itself. Well, the data that you just uploaded in the staging areas will be transferred to the data catalog automatically, and your cohorts mappings will be available there.